Hello. This week we are moving on with quadrilaterals, so four-sided figures, starting this week. Okay, today's notes should be pretty easy. We're just identifying quadrilaterals, kind of what they are not, their proper names. So just kind of follow along in your notes. I suggest that if I'm writing something, you're writing it as well, even though the definitions are there, maybe putting some tick marks for showing that the sides are congruent, or arrows that they are parallel. So go ahead and still do exactly what I'm doing on the notes page, please. Okay, the first type of quadrilateral that we're going to talk about is the trapezoid, and a trapezoid has exactly one pair of parallel lines. So one pair of parallel lines, remember parallel, they will never intersect. So those two are parallel. And then if it's rotated, again, those are parallel. They will never intersect. So one pair of parallel lines. The next one is a kite. A kite has two pairs of congruent adjacent sides and the opposite sides that are not congruent. Okay, so two pairs of congruent, remember congruent means same, and adjacent means they share a vertex, so same side, share a vertex, and the opposite sides are not congruent or not the same. Okay, so if we're looking at this kite, we can see that this angle or line and those are congruent, and they're also adjacent. We know that they are congruent because they both have the same tick mark, so meaning those two sides have the same measure. They meet right up here at this vertex. So there is one pair of congruent adjacent sides. I'll switch colors. And then down here, we see the tick marks again. So this side and this side are congruent, they're the same measure. They share a vertex, so they're adjacent. So that's the other pair of adjacent, or the other pair of congruent adjacent sides. Okay. Alrighty. If we move down to the parallelogram has two pairs of parallel lines. The way we show another way we can show this is with arrows. So this side and this side are parallel. And then this side and this side is parallel. So one arrow, okay, matches up with the one arrow. So the left and right side are parallel. They never intersect. And then the two arrows, the top and the bottom, those will never intersect. So they have two pairs of parallel lines. Okay. The next four-sided quadrilateral is a rhombus. Characteristics of a rhombus: all sides are equal. Okay. How do we show that all four sides are congruent or equal? We can just place a tick mark on each side. Okay. The next two, and they're kind of divided, must have 90-degree angles. So the rectangle obviously has four right angles, and we can just put those on there. Rectangle, four right angles. We know what a rectangle is. And then a square has four right angles and four equal sides, like that rhombus above. So we can show that it has four right angles. And then we can also show four equal congruent sides with the four tick marks, or one tick mark on each side. Okay. Okay, so if you need to review those quadrilaterals, their characteristics, they are there for you for the entire week. And then if we want to find the measure of a quadrilateral, like an unknown, last week we found the unknown measure angle of a triangle. We're going to do the same thing this week, but we have to know that The sum of an angle measure of a quadrilateral is 360 degrees. So all four angles must add up to 360 instead of 180 like a triangle. Okay. So in a quadrilateral, just like a little word problem, you are missing one angle. The three other angles are 62, 123, and 41. What is the missing angle? We can do this one just like we did last week. Not a whole lot of room, but we can still say that some number plus the 62 degrees plus the 123 degrees plus the 41 degrees needs to equal a sum of 360 degrees. When we add the numbers that we do know, again, you may use a calculator. We'll get 226, and then subtract or do the inverse to solve for x. And that unknown measure is 134 degrees. Okay, so x is 134 degrees. And again, you can add up all four numbers with your calculator to double check your work that you always need to be showing to make sure that all four numbers add up to 360. Okay, so here's a little review for you. I would like for you to pause the video and I would like for you to identify the quadrilaterals below, knowing that some will have multiple names, okay? So if they're, not all of them, but there are a few of them that will have multiple names. So go ahead and pause the video and then write the name of the quadrilateral. You may use your notes above, and then unpause and see what you got correct. Okay, this first one, you should have identified this as a parallelogram. The classification of parallelograms are two pairs of parallel sides. Okay. I'm going to go down. So this one is a trapezoid. Going back up to the notes, the trapezoid has exactly one pair of parallel lines. Going down, this next one, okay, we can classify this one two different ways. You should have had two names here. Parallelogram, because if you kind of rotate your iPad, opposite sides are parallel. Also, this one we're going to classify it as a rhombus, because on this rhombus, all sides are the same measure. Okay, so we can classify that one two different ways. And then on the bottom one, obviously that one is a rectangle. We can also classify this one as a parallelogram. Those opposite sides are congruent or are parallel. Okay. Going over to the right side, we're going to have lots of different names for this square. A square is the obvious one. All four sides are equal. All four angles are right. Because all four sides are equal, we can also call this a rhombus. Okay. Believe it or not, we can also classify this as a rectangle because opposite sides are parallel. And then one more. We're also going to classify it as a parallelogram. Okay. Again, two pairs of parallel lines. I'm classifying it all 4 ways because eventually, if you look kind of down towards the bottom, there's going to be some always, sometimes, never true questions, and so those will kind of come up. Okay, on this next one, this would be a parallelogram. And it won't be a rhombus this time because the sides are not the same. All 4 sides are not the same. Opposite sides are parallel. And then on the bottom one, we can classify that as a kite. Okay, 2 pairs of congruent adjacent sides. That one and that one. Okay. And then using our notes, always, sometimes, or never. A square is blank, a rectangle. Again, which is why we identified up here as lots of different ways. A square can always be a rectangle because it has those 90-degree angles for a square. Okay. And opposite sides are parallel. And then a trapezoid is blank, a rectangle. So if we're looking at a trapezoid and there's one right up here, is it always going to be a rectangle? Nope. It sometimes cannot be a rectangle either. So this one's going to be never. A trapezoid is never a rectangle. We know those rectangles have to have 90-degree angles, and the trapezoid does not have any 90-degree angles. Okay, so you can go back through your notes again, review anything that maybe did not make sense. Email me if you have any questions. Tomorrow, we will be doing a boxed page with some practice problems, and then on Thursday,